The events of the last, I don't know, what has it been, like 4 days now, 3 days, and specifically the last like 36 hours have been nothing short of a whirlwind of emotions. Let's just get right into it, Brendan. First off, welcome everybody to Pucks and Brews. Woj will not be joining us today because he is unavailable. Get a
Woj is no
drink.
long
Yeah,
Woj
Woj
is
is
no longer a Ranger fan anymore. He
yeah.
retired from the podcast
Plug in.
after the events of the last couple of days. Woj is retired now.
Yeah, so
He's moved on to he's playing roller hockey at the park now full time. He's done.
yeah, he's going pro roller hockey player. We don't have a brew today because we're doing this like as an immediate. We want to record right now? Yeah, so we apologize for no brews, but that should not stop you from cracking open an unsponsored brew of choice or a favorite drink of whatever you want to drink. And yeah, so James Dolan proves yet again why he should not be an owner of a sports team. The Rangers fired, or well, James Dolan fired the Rangers team president, John Davidson, and general manager, Jeff Gorton, in an extremely shocking turn of events with everything that's gone on over the past couple days, starting with the Tom Wilson situation, the press release that was basically shitting all over NHL's head of Department of Player Safety, George Paros, which they weren't wrong, but it got him a $250,000 fine. And why? They were doing so well. They were doing so well with this rebuild. Has he not learned a damn thing from owning a sports team for the last 27 years? Has he not learned a damn thing? Has he not been paying attention to what the Knicks, especially, have been doing the last 8 years? They finally started playing well again. Why? Because they acquired some good players and they finally have a good coach again. And the Rangers, they finally got their team president, John Davidson. It was a storybook job. Everything came together. They had their general manager in Jeff Gorton. Quinn, I mean, all right, there's a lot of mixed emotions about him. You and I both have mixed things to say about him, but basically we're on the same page of he's not the guy that's going to lead this team to a Stanley Cup. So we don't need to go any further into that because we have the same viewpoint. But especially the thing that kills me, the timing of everything. There was 3 games left in the season, now 2. And I'm going to let you take it from here because I've been talking for a while. Please go right ahead, Brendan, or else I will start cursing up a storm.
No shades. I mean, obviously, I agree with you. It's so shocking, to say the least, and I think confusing, to be honest, from a fan's perspective, only because not many years ago, what up to 3 years ago now, we had put out that statement, the big letter to the fans, letting everybody know that hey, this is going to be a rebuild that was going to be done right. Obviously, by that he meant through the draft, developing young talent, and that, as we know, takes time. It's not something that comes super quick. Although in the Rangers, in our situation, it actually success has come a little quicker than expected. And that's because a lot of the moves that Gordon has made as a GM too. And, a lot of these guys, like a lot of our younger guys and Fox and Lindgren, and playing much better than expected. So that to me is what makes it the most confusing, based off of, I think from a fan's perspective, we already knew that this is how the Rangers were going to be for a couple of years, where we might not be a playoff team. And I think we knew that. So that's why I'm shocked
Yeah,
personally.
yeah,
I just think that it's, like this is what happens when you are rebuilding a team and you're not going to be a playoff team for a couple of years. And the crazy thing is especially this year with the way that the divisions are aligned, and obviously the Rangers are in arguably one of the tougher divisions, with the Capitals and the Penguins, and well, the Penguins are playing much better than expected. the Flyers aren't playing as good, but still Boston's always in the hunt. And basically all these teams were in the hunt besides Buffalo and New Jersey, which didn't necessarily help the Rangers case either when basically every other team in the division just destroyed all of those teams.
Yeah.
And it really became, it became an intense race for the playoffs. And the Rangers, we could have made it, but obviously with everything that happened earlier in the season, we didn't get off to the best start. And yeah, it's crazy. I personally don't buy, I have a hard time believing that it had like something. I think, sorry, let me restart that. I have a hard time believing that it had anything to do with like performance. I don't know. And if it did, then I don't understand.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people were saying. It's like this going into the year, they were still rebuilding. This was not a playoffs or bust year by any stretch of the imagination to anybody. All right, well, I mean, certainly some people there were it was, but it was not a playoffs or bust season. They are still in the middle of a rebuild. They still had guys who they drafted with legitimate NHL upside at the beginning of the season who had yet to make their NHL debuts. Just to name a few, Baron Kravtsov and Jones off the top of my head. The team, it was the youngest team in the league from the start of the season to the trade deadline when they fell to second youngest team in the league because the Devils traded away a bunch of their veterans and they ended up getting younger overall. There was just, and a lot of reports have come out over the last 24, 30, 36 hours, and we all know what they are by now. But the report that I saw today was, we were just talking about this right before we started recording, that I'm going to try and quote this as best as I can. Dolan was peeved to incensed. That was the quote. And then paraphrasing here, that Gorton didn't do anything to, basically, he wasn't a buyer at the deadline to try and get the team into the playoffs. Here's my reaction to that. This team should not have been buyers at the deadline. This team had no business being buyers at the deadline. It made no sense for them to be buyers at the deadline. And now all of a sudden he's mad because Gorton didn't make a trade to help boost the team into the playoffs. They are still rebuilding. You're not supposed to be a buyer at the deadline. That is not a rebuilding year. That is not what a rebuilding team does during a rebuilding year. They had $9 million in dead cap space and going into the season, and that's not even including the Tony DeAngelo situation, which his minimum cap hit, I am so just I'm seething right now. I can't even think. His minimum cap hit, even after he got sent down, whatever the word you want to call it, was still in the millions. So they basically had $11 million of dead cap space going into the trade deadline. What move do you possibly expect a team to make when they have $11 million in dead cap space going into the trade deadline? And look where the team is right now. Panarin's out for the rest of the season. Trouba's out for the rest of the season. Lindgren's out for the rest of the season. Buchnevich just got suspended a game, which we'll get to in a minute. But Panarin's out too, if I didn't mention him.
No, you did, Shades.
Like I said, my brain is scrambled. But one last thing before I throw it back to you. The main thing why this team should not have been buyers, they proved over the course of the season that for whatever reason, they played well against Washington all season, besides last night. But probably the game before too. But they proved that they did not play well against the Penguins this season. They did not play well against the Islanders this season. They did not play well against the Bruins this season. What do those three teams have in common? They're all in the playoffs. They all clinched the spot in the playoffs. Sure, did we beat the hell out of New Jersey? Did we beat the hell out of the Sabres? Yes, but those are two of the worst teams in the entire league. They did not show up to play against the good teams, which is why they should not have been buyers at the deadline. If it was really performance-based related, Dolan does not know what he's doing. Go right ahead, Brendan. The floor is yours.
No shades. I mean, I think you said it. I think you hit it right on the head. To be honest, it's just probably is going to go down as one of the most like dramatic seasons, and it's like it's literally like a soap opera that just it's like every week there's something new going on with the Rangers, and it's just it's getting out of control now. It's like, and honestly, I hope this is the end of it, but I don't think it will be, unfortunately.
I feel the need to list what's happened over the course of the season. Just like, first off, you had Mika getting COVID and not playing well for a large
just to start the year. Yeah,
that was just to start the year. You had the Panarin situation. Trouba got a concussion.
Yeah, Trouba. Well, sorry to cut you off, Shades, but this is the second time this season Trouba has gotten hurt. Remember, he did miss a, what was that, at least like a 8-game span back in the beginning of the season that he missed some time as well. So, it on the injury front, the injuries couldn't have come at a worse time because, it took out some of our defensive anchors. And, Trouba, I have mixed emotions about Trouba, but I will admit that at least Trouba was emerging as a leader in the locker room and on the ice. And he had been playing much better up until that injury against the Islanders where Matt Martin hit him. And, that's hockey, unfortunately. And obviously what happened to Lindgren was just, also awful. But with those guys down on D, it's tough. It would have been tough for us to make the playoffs. You're talking about winning, 6 games in a row against some of the top teams. It was highly unlikely. And on top of it, the Boston Bruins are one of the hottest teams since the deadline, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I do know with the addition of Taylor Hall, they've been a much better team. So it was going to be tough either way, but I think Shades, I think we've ranted about this, upper management situation. We can obviously circle back to it, but let's talk about,
just to finish off. I found the tweet I was looking for about the incidents. First off, I forgot Kako was on the COVID list twice. Shesterkin got injured. You had the Tony DeAngelo incident, which we mentioned earlier, but that's also on the list. And now the Wilson incident came up. The press release thing came up. JD and Gordon got fired. Things we've mentioned. This is a season from hell.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I think that should all serve as evidence, personally, that it's hard to evaluate this season based on all these things, and I would say more so COVID-related stuff. Even though it's kind of hard to use it as an excuse, considering the whole league was dealing with situations, and obviously you see what happened with Vancouver and all these different teams, and everybody's dealing with injuries and stuff. But I just think from in the third season of a rebuild with all these things ongoing, I just think it's very tough to blame it on the GM. And I, like we said earlier, I think that's honestly the thing that makes it most confusing. It's ridiculous. But
the last thing I want to say before I touch upon moving forward with the organization, I just want, if Quinn somehow escapes all of this and he's the coach at the start of next season, none of these moves make sense. The press release doesn't make sense. The firings don't make sense. Him keeping his job would make even less sense at this point. If you're looking for a change in a team, who's the first person that's usually the scapegoat? The head coach. Quinn's proven he can't get the team to play against good teams. What happens? Jeff Gorton and John Davidson get fired.
Yeah.
So that alone, if it was actually performance related, Quinn would have been fired with those two. So like you said before, I also don't believe for 1 second that this was performance related. I think this is Dolan just making another boneheaded decision with one of his sports teams.
And Shay, just to touch upon that too, I also think, when, you said it earlier in the show that, Rangers Twitter is always coming after Quinn, and Quinn makes good moves, and he obviously makes a lot of questionable lineup decisions. I think we see that from time to time, but I also think all the reasons we listed, I think that would buy him a little bit more time as well. So I think those same things apply to him as well. Personally, I would like to have him. I don't know. All I was going to say is I think that if he were to be the coach next season, I wouldn't be, I guess I wouldn't be surprised now with everything that's happened. But we didn't even really touch upon who, Gordon's replacement.
That's what I was going to get into.
John Davidson. Yeah. I mean, that's going to be Chris Drury. For the time being, it seems like he's going to be doing both roles. I don't know how long that's going to be. I'm assuming he's just going to be the GM, considering he's been the assistant GM, right?
Yep. Yeah, they actually earlier in the year they promoted him from assistant GM to associate GM because teams were calling about him left and right. And like everybody who's a Rangers fan who actually pays attention to upper management and all that stuff, everybody knew that Drury was eventually going to be the GM after Gordon to begin with, but it's just like the circumstances around everything happening. It's just, we all knew he was the guy, but like Gordon, his work wasn't finished yet. It's just, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and I mean, everybody. I'm pretty sure 90% of Rangers fans would agree, just in the fact that it's just too soon, and although I will say that I don't think that this is the worst pick that we could have made for GM. Obviously, Chris Drury's, in the early 2000s, he was a great hockey player on Buffalo. As a matter of fact, he single-handedly eliminated the Rangers from the 05 playoffs while he was on Buffalo. And then
the 05 playoffs.
Or whenever it was. Yeah.
05 was the lockout, kid.
Oh, I'm sorry. 06. Whenever it was. It was after 05, whatever. But, yeah, I mean, Chris Drury was a great player. And obviously he ended up coming to the Rangers, which, wasn't the best move for us at the time, but it actually, ended up working out, I guess, that he came into the front office after. But yeah, Shades, I mean, I don't think there's a lot of fans that dislike the decision for him to become GM. I just think it's the circumstances, but it's more aggravating.
Yeah, no, the circumstances and the timing, obviously. And just to put this into perspective, we are so pissed right now that the Rangers are playing right now and we're recording. I'm not watching the last 2 games of the season on the sole basis of how pissed I am at Dolan. I would have watched the game last night, but I unfortunately was not home.
Oh, we can get into that.
Though. What?
I said we can definitely touch upon that.
All right, yeah, let's do it now. 6 fights in the first period, 3.
One last thing before we move on to the game. Another interesting rumor is possibility of the Rangers bringing in Mark Messier as either hockey operations, right?
Either president of hockey operations or a role similar to that.
Yeah, that to me is interesting.
That's going to be a hard no from me.
I'm sorry. I'm not a big fan of it either, only because he doesn't have much experience. Obviously, Mark Messier is one of the greatest NHL players of all time. I mean, Rangers fans know what he did for us in '94 and what he did with Edmonton. But that's interesting to me. I'm not sure. It's like there's talks. It's all rumors. Yep. Nobody actually knows if anything with Messier is going to happen. I know he's on the Michael Kay show talking that he would definitely take a role as a coach or hockey operations or whatever. But yeah, to me, him as head coach is kind of a step in the wrong direction. as far as the rebuild goes.
Yeah.
You know, if we are looking for a head coach, there are some great head coaches out there right now, and I know you and Liam and
Gerard Gallant
is a great fit. I think that he would be perfect. You know, he was a former tough guy in his career, and if anybody, I think we need to toughen this team up, especially what we've seen happen with Wilson, and not just Wilson, but all season.
Yeah,
But
two things before I throw it to you for the game last night. One, it's going to be a hard no from Messier on me for either the head coach or the president job, because you, especially with where the team is, you need a person who has experience in those positions to take over. They just went the route of an out of the box hire college coach with David Quinn. You can't make that same mistake again, considering what you've seen over the last 3 seasons. And two, if you're going to fire Quinn, you got to bring in somebody like Gerard Gallant, who's taken a team far into the playoffs, who's a well-respected coach around the league. He took the Knights to the finals in their first year. He proved just how good of a coach he is.
Yeah,
why he's unemployed that's a whole nother thing.
I was going to say, Shades. Yeah, I mean, to me, the fact that Vegas Golden Knights even fired him doesn't make any sense. But you know,
well, it's
that's
not
a whole other story.
Didn't work out for them the first year they did it. So
yeah, that to me didn't make any sense. But yeah, Shades. And one last thing about Messier, I wanted to bring this up because it's something that I remember from a couple of years back. Could have been around like 2017-ish. But an interesting thing is, you know, Mark Messier has tried to grow the game of hockey in New York. Like, I don't know if you remember this at the time, but Mark Messier was trying to get a bid in for this property, and he wanted to get like this 9-rink arena built in the Bronx to try to bring like hockey to, I'm pretty sure it was like the plan was to bring like hockey to like inner city communities and stuff like that. He wanted to bring like, yeah, I think it was an idea for like this huge like multiplex rink situation, but it never ended up getting approved. But I thought that was kind of interesting. I do remember that. I remember them writing about it in the paper years ago and thought it was interesting.
Well, now that we've basically touched upon everything, if only we recorded yesterday, but we literally, like, you and Woj weren't available, and I certainly wasn't gonna go on a rant for 20 whatever minutes by myself, because I'm not. No, but it's just, where was I even going with this? Major brain fart. Oh yeah, going to the game last night where there were 6 fights in the third period, 3 right off the puck drop. I mean, you had an Oshie hat trick the first game he's back after his dad died. Condolences to him. But I mean, holy crap, was last night just insane. I wish I could have been home to watch it, but I couldn't make it.
Yeah, Mike, you know, it was kind of insane. You know, we didn't even really talk about the incident much, but obviously we know Tom Wilson cross-checked to Buchnevich and then pulling Panarin down by his hair, and he almost hits his head on the ice. Well, he basically did hit his head on the ice, just hit his shoulder first, thankfully. So, but yeah, you know, and the NBC crew made it quite evident. They kept bringing it up, and they were like, you know, if they even suspend Wilson for 1 game, none of this is going on right now, and it was so true.
Probably true.
And you know, I think that when they look back at it, and I think I would say a lot of NHL fans would agree with the fact that probably should have been a suspension. You know, he's got here's the thing, like it's becoming to the point now where it's like it's almost like the reffing in a way. It's like it's so inconsistent.
Extremely.
And it's just frustrating. It's like, you know, Wilson has he's filling in all the boxes. He's got the history, just the play on the ice. That to me, that should have been a game misconduct, honestly, right away. But you know, it's, and another thing too is interesting. I would have liked to see our reactions as fans. I think we would have been cooled down a little bit if somebody were to have to just fought him right away after the incident. I think it would have cooled things down. But I think the fact that he kind of just like slipped away and nothing happened to him that night, also let it sit overnight, and I think that had the fans blood boiling a little bit, and to only find out that the next night that he only gets a $5,000 fine for the Buchnevich incident. They didn't even address the Panarin thing, which I didn't really understand that.
Just goes to show you the Department of Player Safety does not care about the safety of their players. George Parros is doing a terrible job. I mean, we all know he is. If I get sued for this, go right ahead, NHL. Like, you employed a bad person for the role. You know what I mean? I don't know if he's actually a bad person, but he's not doing a good job. But it's just like, you're right. If Wilson gets suspended, and plus he did that stupid thing in the penalty box, whatever the fuck that was. But it's literally, if he does get suspended, that whole thing doesn't happen last night. You don't have 6 fights break out. That's literally proving that you don't give a flying fuck about the safety of your players. I'm just going to be blunt.
To be honest with you, I'm actually kind of happy how the Rangers responded last night. I thought that it was, warranted. Buchnevich must himself had like a good 20 minutes in penalties. I mean, the guy was going off. He was slashing Wilson, and Shades, right off the jump, I just want to bring up something that's absolutely hilarious. So right off the face-off, you had a Rooney, DJW, and Blackwell drop the gloves. Who does Blackwell drop the gloves
Carl
with?
Hagelin.
Carl
Hagelin.
It's like, did they not tell Carl Hagelin that they were going to drop the gloves? Like, why would they send Carl Hagelin out there?
I don't know.
That was brutal. But right off the jump too is, and this is crazy to me, but it's like, Brendan Smith, man, this guy is, his last like 10 games, he has been like one of the most noticeable Rangers on the ice. He actually has been really good. And, I think we all kind of knew with all of our guys being out of the lineup, like, our tougher guys, Lindgren and Trouba and them being out, that Smith was going to be the one to step up to fight Wilson. He goes right at him, and, he goes at toe to toe. Honestly, he kind of I think Wilson kind of destroyed him a little bit personally, but I still had a lot of respect for him for going after it. And everybody was dropping the gloves, man. Strome was dropping the gloves. It was crazy.
Yeah, too bad I didn't see it, but I was.
But that's, and like you said earlier, Shades, and in response to that, Buchnevich had a nasty cross check to the face of Mantha. It was nasty. It was.
I saw
brutal.
I saw a clip. Buchnevich did hit him, but then Mantha was going after him with the stick. I'm just listen, he had that coming. Mantha had that coming.
Listen, they were targeting Buchnevich. He was slashing a lot of guys too. So, yeah, I don't think Buchnevich really cares, to be honest. That like the 1 game suspension for that was just on top of it, and the Rangers getting the $250,000 fine. It honestly is just laughable, to be honest. But
yeah,
it is. It's funny, and I think, the biggest takeaway from it is, hey, listen, and the truth of the matter is, a lot of people are going to argue about the league and, what needs to happen with the league because they're trying to eliminate all this shenanigans from happening. But
no, they're not.
They say they are, but I also don't believe that.
Yeah, don't insult our intelligence.
To me,
and that's coming from me. Okay?
To me, I have an old school mentality when it comes to that stuff. I think that fighting should always have a place in hockey, personally, because you know what, if stuff like this should be preventable because of fighting, where like if a guy does something like that to one of your teammates and somebody can step up and fight him on that particular night, I think it squashes a lot of the stuff that carries over to the next game. But in the Rangers circumstance, and I was about to bring it around to that point before, is the fact that they don't necessarily have guys this season in the lower half of the lineup that can step up to guys like that. And I think that's got to be one of the biggest things they have to address in the offseason. Because listen, as part of a lot of Stanley Cup winning teams have guys like that on the team. And this is where it gets tricky. It's like, the NHL is trying to eliminate those kinds of guys, those old school enforcers, because the game is getting faster. But here's the thing, there's always going to be guys that could do there's always going to be guys that can do both. And that's the thing with Tom Wilson. He almost like breaks that thing. It's like they're trying to eliminate that fighter that he is, but he's also a really good hockey player. So you can't eliminate tough guys out of the game completely. It's impossible, because when a guy comes around like that's good, that's a skill guy and a tough guy, then he's bullying everybody. It's like, I still think that this should go down as one of the biggest examples as to why you still need tough guys in hockey.
Yep. But like we said, if Wilson gets suspended, that probably doesn't happen. This was a completely avoidable situation. That, that meme that was going around a while back where it's just like a guy is like two astronauts out in space looking at the moon, and then the other one has like a photoshopped gun to the back of the first one's head. It's just like NHL. I mean, NHL. Also NHL, the innocent bystander. It's just like they literally do shoot themselves in the foot all the time.
Yeah,
and we didn't even bring up the new TV deal. We didn't even bring that up. I mean, well, technically we did, but last episode, but still.
Yeah, Shades. It was definitely. I mean, what a crazy end to the season.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know what's worse, getting eliminated from the playoffs basically due to the Islanders losing those 2 games, even though it technically wasn't the final nail in the coffin, but the final nail in the coffin was that game with Wilson. That really what put us out of contention technically. But yeah, man, that's I think that's something that we didn't bring this up before too, and I think that this will tie in perfectly, is that Drury did say he wants to stay on track with the rebuild. And this is a guy that's not out of the loop on things. So I do believe he is going to stay on track with the rebuild. It's just, this is where it becomes a question. And I really hope somebody close to the Rangers can answer. It's like, how much influence is Dolan going to have now with the Rangers? Because if he does have a lot of influence, it's going to be a rough little stretch. And, it took the Knicks years to recover from the damage that he did to them. And and let's just hope that the same thing doesn't happen to the Rangers. Otherwise it's going to be a painful next 10 years or longer.
Yeah, no, like with what you just said, Dolan proves yet again that the guy can't stop getting in his own way. And I'd be a lot more mad right now, but I let a lot of anger out yesterday on first off, thanks again to our buddy Liam. He had me on his podcast yesterday called The Penalty Box. Please check it out. I went on a very, very good rant there. Brendan watched it earlier. He enjoyed it. You guys and girls will enjoy it as well. And I also went on another show I'm affiliated with called the Sports Hit List. We had the last segment of the show because of the breaking news, and me and my other buddy Mike, we were going off. It was a great time. So you guys should definitely check that out. The Penalty Box Podcast, which is on YouTube now, on iTunes, Anchor, and all other major podcast platforms. And also check us out on the Sports Hit List on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter. Well, not Twitter, but they locked themselves out of their own Twitter account. That's another story for another
Shades,
day.
I didn't see you on the Sports Hit List. You're gonna have to send that over to me.
That's because you don't have Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. So I probably won't be able to watch it either way. But obviously I listen to Penalty Box every episode that comes out. So
yeah, no,
I obviously have to listen to it.
Liam and Will do a good job. So
yeah, for sure. It's crazy, Shades. It's crazy to say the least. But yeah, it's obviously these next 2 games don't, tonight's game and
no, they don't mean anything.
Don't mean anything, but it's discouraging. But realistically, I'm still going to watch the Rangers and I'm still going to watch the NHL. So as much as I go on a rant about the league and all that, here's the thing. It's like the thing that's going to bring me satisfaction is when the Capitals play somebody that it's going to be a tough matchup, and Tom Wilson is he'll get what he deserves down the line.
I hope so.
And listen, and there's been things that have happened to Tom Wilson in the past that are also, pretty insane. So yeah, and listen, and if anything, that also serves as an example of the inconsistency as well. It's like I don't know, Shades. Yeah, that's going to be one of the things they have to figure it out. It's I don't know who to really criticize. Really, I think it falls on the league ultimately, because I'm sure that there's certain things that they want him to do. Paros, it's not like I'm sure he's not making a lot of these decisions as well. Like there has to be a lot of influencing coming in from the league and all this other stuff. So to take it out on him, I don't even think that's the right move, to be honest. I would say it falls more on the league ultimately in the end. But yeah, I think they'll figure it out, but hopefully sooner than later.
Yeah, I hope so. But in the meantime, we're putting this episode up like immediately. So if there's something I wanted to edit out, I'm not editing it out. This has been Pucks and Brews. Thank you everybody for joining us. This has been episode 13. Unlucky number 13. How appropriate.
Destiny, Shades.
Luckily, it's not Friday the 13th, or else shit would be crazy. But yeah, we'll be back at the end of the regular season for playoff predictions, because the season ended up getting extended because of a whole bunch of COVID stuff. So yeah, we'll be back. Hopefully Woj will be back with us. And yeah, playoff predictions, go Avalanche. I wish Chris Drury the best of luck.
Go Knights, Shades. Sorry.
Nah, Avalanche have been my pick to win since the playoffs ended no, not even before that. They've been my pick to win it since they got eliminated last year.
Let me tell you something right now, kid. It's going to be real interesting, because I'm going based off the fact that if the Golden Knights win the division, which they might be a lock for at this point, and it's a Colorado, Minnesota first round, that's going to be insane.
Oh yeah, no, that's
I'm actually really looking forward. I'm really looking forward to that division is the most intriguing to me. I'm honestly kind of tired of our division.
Oh, same. No, dude. Like all right. Before we end it, I was going through like the 4 teams in our division today, and I'm just like, well, I was rooting for Washington. Then the Tom Wilson thing happened. I can't root for Pittsburgh because just no. I can't root for Boston because just no. And I can't root for the Islanders for obvious reasons. So I literally can't root for anybody from this division.
Honestly, out of all the teams in the division, I actually would rather see the Islanders come out. And the reason for that is because I still want to see an Islanders-Toronto matchup at some point. I still want that to be a thing. Like
I don't even want Toronto out of the first round.
I don't even think that
I've had enough of them.
I don't know if that's a dying feud, but honestly, I still think that a lot of Islanders fans are sour deep down about the John Tavares thing, and I still would love to see that series play out. I think it would be entertaining, to say the least.
Well, I mean,
I want to see an Islanders Capitals. Because listen, Tom Wilson thinks he's going to pull off any of that stuff against the Islanders. That's just not going to happen.
Anyway, we'll talk about that more next episode when we do playoff predictions. I'm not even going to give a date because it's going to be like a week and a half from now at least. But thank you everybody for listening. Hope you enjoyed a favorite drink of choice or an unsponsored brew of choice if you're drinking a cold one. And yeah, we'll be back for playoff predictions. Hope you enjoyed my rant at the beginning of the show. Hope you enjoyed Brendan. Hopefully we'll have Woj back, and follow us all on all of our socials listed in the description below. Hit those subscribe buttons. And I gotta say, I'm looking forward to the hamburger I'm about to eat. Yeah, that's a good way to end it.